In 3, 2, 1, you're live.
We're going to call the meeting for Akron City Council to order. Clerk will read the roll.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Samples.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
Swirsky. All members are present except for Swirsky.
At this time, we'll be led in prayer by Councilman Freeman. Immediately following our prayer, I'm going to ask if we can be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilwoman Amobian.
All right, we'll pray together. Father, thank you for the very breath that we have within our lungs this evening. God, thank you for daily sustenance. God, give us hearts and minds that will be open to see that each and every good gift comes down from the Father of lights. And now this evening, we would ask, and you have told us that we're to seek after knowledge as we would seek for hidden treasure. And so we do ask this evening that you would guide our hearts and our words, and that everything might honor you, and that in turn you would give us just a real sense of gratitude and responsibility for serving those folks that you have placed in our respective wards. We thank you for this in your name. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to
The flag
Of
of the United States
of America and to
and
the
to the republic
for
which
which
it
it
stands,
one nation, under God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
and
and
justice
justice for all.
for all.
Thank you. The minutes from our previously held meeting have been provided. Are there any additions or corrections at this time? Seeing and hearing none, can we get a motion to approve? Councilman Fusco?
Motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Thank you so much. And a second by Councilman Malik.
Second.
Roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Samples.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The minutes pass 12-0.
Before you, you have the consent agenda. Motion to approve. Councilman Fusco?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Can we get a second by Councilwoman Samples?
Second.
Roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Samples.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The consent agenda passes 12-0.
Thank you. We do have 3 public hearings scheduled for this evening. Clerk will read in item number 1.
Notice is hereby given that the following public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, January 11th, 2021, during the council meeting at 7 p.m. Ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct a horticulture and volunteer center at 714 North Portage Path.
Mr. Antonucci?
Yes, thank you, Madam President, members of council. Stan Hewitt Hall and Gardens is requesting permission to utilize the north end of Reynolds Avenue to provide restricted volunteer access to and construction of a relocated operations area at this northwest area of the estate. The new operations buildings would include a volunteer building, a storage barn, and a greenhouse. The buildings would be designed with vertical wood siding to blend with natural surroundings. The volunteer building would be located 10 feet from the south property line, while the storage barn would be approximately 102 feet from the property line. The 29 space paid parking lot east of the volunteer building would extend to within 65 feet of the south property line, while an emergency access drive would be 53 feet from the line. The supplemental line of landscaping, including a mix of evergreen, shade, and ornamental trees and shrubs, would add to the current landscape screening along the south property line. An electronic keypad gate at Reynolds Avenue would provide controlled access for part-time volunteers and emergency vehicles only. All other traffic would utilize either an existing gated service drive along the north side of the property or the internal drive to the east. The proposed buildings are part of a larger phased plan, which includes relocating these facilities from their current location at the northeast corner of the site in order to repurpose that area for additional visitor parking, with as many as 164 parking spaces. Allowing the relocation of these facilities will allow for a new visitor parking in a location that preserves amenities of the estate, and the new parking would reduce the burden and congestion on the surrounding streets and neighborhood. The Office of Integrated Development, Planning Staff, and Planning Commission recommend approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Antonucci. At this time, all those wishing to speak in favor or against 714 North Portage Path, I'm just going to ask that you be sworn in by a member of our law department.
Those wishing to speak during this public hearing, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to give is the truth? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will actually start with our petitioners. Sean Joyce.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate this. Yeah, so I'm the president and executive director of Stadium Hall and Gardens. I've been with Stan Hewitt since 2010, and most recently, 2 years ago, took over as its president and CEO. The purpose of this project is several fronts. Over the last 10 years, Stan Hewitt has seen, fortunately, significant growth in attendance. We've grown from 85,000 folks a year to about 135,000, which has been great, and really big part of the turnaround to get us back to covering our expenses. Back in 2010, Stan Hewitt was losing almost upwards of $800,000 a year. So this growth has really helped us kind of get things back in check and get us back into covering our operating expenses. So we're in no means rolling in the dough, as we say, but we have definitely righted the ship. But this project has been much needed to catch up to that growth. If you can imagine, with that many more people, the need for parking, for instance, is a huge necessity. And we've only been able to add 75 parking spaces in that time. So the only place and the best place for us to add those parking facilities, which would be two major parking areas along Portage Path, is that area where we have some infrastructure currently. Now what's down there is pretty aged and past its life cycle. Our pole barn and service area is dilapidated and falling apart. Our poly houses need replaced. And we have groups of volunteers that work in what we call the EB house, which is a 1950s bungalow there on the property. And most of that work that's being done is our crafts committee, our arts, our gardeners, those volunteers that make product for Ohio Mart work in that space throughout the year and, kind of do that when they can in and out. So to make room for that, we need to clear those facilities and also make some serious improvements to those facilities. So we decided to build new facilities on the west part of the property, which is the plot near Reynolds Avenue. So in that space, we have what we're calling internally a volunteer building, but it's really half the volunteer building and half warehouse storage, which is also a huge need. We have nowhere to store our items, files, even product for the store. We're pretty much out of capacity. We're also going to build a new facility for the horticulture area, for the maintenance and pole barn itself. So that'll be built as well in that same space. Now, currently, the volunteer portion of the building, which is where we need the access off Reynolds ideally, is about 3,500 square feet. So it's probably 3 times more room than the bungalow, but obviously it's not a huge facility on its own. So I think it's kind of where some of the confusion has come, because Stan Hewitt does have 600 volunteers, but really about 200 volunteers are actively, are active throughout the year doing things like working in our gardens, giving tours, working in the store, working in guest services. But the big majority of those volunteers show up and do a shift during Ohio Mart or Christmas or what have you. So the group we're talking about really operating in this facility is pretty small. It's maybe 40 to 50 people at most throughout the year, and in those committees. So I think that's kind of part of the challenge. Is I think there's this idea that 600 people who work 55,000 hours for us a year are all going to be zoning in on this building, and that's not the case. Quite frankly, at 3,500 square feet, we couldn't possibly put a couple hundred people in there. So that's kind of where we are. Now, there is a path. Yes, we have a maintenance road that comes in off Portage Path off of our lower lot area. I've tried to have folks out to walk that path with us, so they see the challenge, including a couple, Shamus Malik here, and Ed Muse joined us last week, and Councilman Fusco, to really see kind of where we're kind of hemmed in there. It's not wide enough for 2 cars, and that's kind of part of the challenge. We're having volunteers trying to go that route back, to this facility and then coming in and out as they may need to. But also it's hemmed in by some unfortunate contours in our property, including wetlands to the right with 20-foot drop off and a lot of the space area of the road. And then to the left of the road, really tight, is just a steep incline uphill about 40-something feet. So, and there's a lot of wetlands and other environmental issues around both sides of that road. So we've kind of looked at this over and over, tried to, believe me, because if I could avoid going to Reynolds, I would love to, because I do not want to interrupt the lives of our neighbors either. And I know 1 car is too many, so I'm not trying to minimize any traffic going through Reynolds Avenue. But right now, this is kind of our best case scenario for this project. We've got a $2 million budget that we've been successful at the state of Ohio going after competitive dollars in the state budget the last 2 cycles. And this year, we're fortunate to have a cycle amidst a pandemic. So that was a pleasant surprise for us. We got $750,000 grant, which was one of the largest awards in the whole county. And we had a $550,000 grant a couple years ago. Now, of course, those funds are going to pay for the budget as it's constructed, which it is a tight budget. You can imagine we're trying to do a lot with $2 million. I know $2 million sounds a lot of money, but with everything we're trying to move and change, it's going to go pretty quickly. But the end result of the project, we hope, is going to help us, catch up to our growth, allow Stan Hewitt to have flexibility to continue to make the organization sustainable. And also, if you've seen our special events like Christmas, we just finished Christmas, for instance, Ohio Mart Car Show, is really try to alleviate the pressure of all the cars that we send out to the neighborhood, especially along Portage Path and off Garmin Road. I mean, we send, hundreds and hundreds of cars out there, right? And so having these parking spaces can allow us really to contain that traffic on most of our events, most of those nights, and also cut down our need to shuttle guests from the church that we are fortunate they lend us their property, as well as all the way down to Todero's Party Center. So again, we're trying to accomplish a lot. We're trying to be as transparent as possible. 2 years ago, we started this design and process and discussion with the first ask we made with the state of Ohio. At that time, we tried to send out communication to neighbors about this project. Now, granted, you can't do as much as possible. You can't accomplish everything in communication and paper. I totally acknowledge that. And we try to send correspondence along the way. We've also tried to work with the city on this design from the very beginning, and trying our best to follow the steps as we should and be good stewards of the project and the neighborhood. So I know there's concerns from the neighbors, and as Shamus and I have talked, I know there's concerns about once we open the door, once the door is open to allow us access, what do we do next? Are we going to start parking got the whole traffic back there and send the public, and Shamus and I and Ed have talked to several times about this. I'm willing to put whatever language in place to stop either me or someone down the road from me to just up and doing something like that to the neighborhood. I'm happy to entertain whatever that looks like. We haven't been able to get anywhere on that yet. But, you know, again, my hope is that the traffic is minimal. We don't want to be disruption to the neighborhood. And whatever the outcome is of this discussion, I assure you, give my word, we will do our best to make everyone as happy as possible. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Joyce. Do you have anyone else online with you that would like to speak in favor of this project?
Yeah, so I have Perry Bassina, who's my project manager, and he's going to fill in for our design and engineer, who's unfortunately had a family emergency, so she can't join us. So he's going to speak to some of the details of the project, just so everyone's informed, can ask questions.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
So do you have the slides? Do you want to take us? Do you want me to take you through the slides again? Is we did this earlier?
It's completely up to you.
Sure. Yeah. Let's go to if we have the slides up, then everybody can see it. We'll start with C100.
Just give me a second to pull up the slides.
I appreciate that, Sean. I'm sorry, we should have took care of that technical issue. We should have learned earlier this afternoon. I appreciate that.
No problem. This is what a council person is for, I think.
Well, you're multi-talented, we'll give you that.
Okay. Again, thank you for giving us the opportunity to present this again. We believe this is just a really neat project, and we want to do it as enough due diligence and just be as aware and appreciate everybody's concerns going forward. The layout you're looking at now is the project site layout plan. It shows that the railroad tracks are to the north, with the estate to the east, and Reynolds is to the avenue to the south. The primary entrance to the Peach Orchard site is from the north, our service road, and to the west, prefabricated greenhouses, polyhouses, and bulk storage area. The containment bins are comprised of precast concrete blocks, and the stormwater management facility will be underground detention chambers delineated on the layout plan, which that portion of the project was approved by the Summit Soil and Water, and is quite an extensive water retention system that will filter the water and release it at a certain rate. It's monitored. We've signed an agreement, a maintenance agreement with that. So ecologically, this project has been very well thought out, and is very concerned about the wetlands we have on property, which have been delineated and won't be touched either. The two gravel areas on east and the west side of the circular drive areas are enclosed with gated chain link fence and contain the existing natural gas wellheads, one which is actually non-operative and removed and will be capped in the spring. The parking lot immediate south of the wellheads supports the maintenance building and is intended for maintenance and horticulture staff, both full-time and seasonal. The parking lot to the east will support the volunteer building, and an access drive to the south of the volunteer building will allow for offloading and pickup of materials. And finally, the volunteer entrance will connect to Reynolds by way of a key card controlled gate. The maintenance building floor plan and elevations we'll show you in a later slide. You can go to the next one, please. C300. So this slide will show you the project site and the grading plan. The existing site's natural characteristics consisted of a wooded terrain. And we probably, we got a tree clearing permit a couple of years ago and cleared the trees within the window that we were permitted to do so. The ground slopes to the south to north and southeast to north. And the large wetland I mentioned to the north remains and is to be protected. There's also a centrally located existing natural gas wellhead. Actually, tube, one like I mentioned, is actually taken away and will be capped. The intent of the grading plan is to nest the site in the hillside and tuck in the buildings so that they are concealed from view, as well as making the smallest footprint possible. Beginning on the south side of the project at Reynolds, we're depressing the grade enough down to the volunteer building to parking to provide ADA compliant grades. And here there's an 8 to 10% grade, which brings us down to the maintenance portion of the site. Grading here is transitional and allows for drainage. And we have prepared a couple of renderings that will illustrate the building and how they'll nest into the hillside. And as like I mentioned, we cleared the site 2 years ago and basically cleaned up the site using some of the ground, the clay, to refurbish our lagoons. And right around March, when the COVID thing started, so we were able just basically to clean up just 100 years of debris and everything, just kind of clean up the site and make it look presentable more than anything else. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. The landscaping plan. Okay, the landscaping plan consists of restoring the disturbed areas within the maintenance area and lawn areas outside the fence with a no-mow mixture. The volunteer building will receive a treatment of perennials and ornamental trees and shrubs. The hillside between the buildings and the neighbors to the south will receive a mixture of shade, evergreen, and ornamental trees to buffer the neighbor's view, which basically is adding more trees to the south line, which there already is. And presently, the fence line that's on that south property line is actually about 10 plus feet onto Stan Hewitt's property. In other words, that property line is, again, we've kept our fence a little further onto our property line for the whole distance of the property, just as a buffer. The hillside again is will be treated with a nice screen. The final plant list will be completed by Stan Hewitt's horticulture team. And then the next slides basically will show. Let's go to the next one if we could, please. This is basically a basic footprint of the volunteer building on the top, which shows a breakout room where they can do some archiving and the crafts and so forth, a couple of restrooms, a little kitchenette, and some storage for acclimatized storage for archiving Iron Mountain boxes and what have you, files and that. And the bottom is the footprint of the pole barn with a couple of one ADA unisex bathroom, and then a mechanical room and an area for the sanitary grinder, which will pass from there to the volunteer building, then out Reynolds. The next slide, that shows the elevations of the buildings themselves. Basically steel, their wood frame was steel clad, steel roof, gutters. There's a very integrated storm system that ties into the retention system I mentioned earlier. So it catches all the water that comes off the buildings and on the site. So there's no storm water that's not being caught. And the next one shows another side view of the pole barn, front and back. Couple of doors, lighting will be under the eaves. All directional lighting will point away from residential. maybe there'll be some, it could possibly be some like pathway lighting, but no like massive halogen LED lights blaring in the sky. And then the last photograph shows, or the one that shows Reynolds exit or the entrance into the property is existing. That shows the existing entrance, and then to the right shows the gate with a card reader or access reader. So with a new sliding gate and trees pruned and added to make it look presentable and nice. And then the last slide here shows after we cleared the trees, or not the last one, but shows where we after we removed the trees and then scraped it up a little bit, just kind of cleaned up the site, prior to going into importing of grading and dirt and everything. And we basically have submitted the plans to City of Akron back in May, and we actually inquired about where they were at in September, and they said they couldn't find them, and all of a sudden they found them. So Jill, who was with EDG, was in contact with Chad, and there's something that's got to be filed, some piece of paper that we can then present and get a formal grading permit. We believe we had the appropriate permits, and there was not an attempt for us to bypass any permitting by any means. We actually, like I say, the project has been approved by the Summit Soil and Water. I have a pre walkthrough with Julie on Wednesday, a pre-con meeting, just to walk the site, compare what is on the drawings, and make sure that everybody's on the same page with what's been approved and in regards to the stormwater retention and that. So we understand any additional permits or bonds that need to be put in place or is coming. Then the next slide shows the building. This is looking west at the volunteer building, which sits 10 feet below the south property's backyards. And then the pole barn sits another 10 feet. So that the pole barn is actually 20 feet below the existing backyards on the south. And we're trying to make the colors and everything kind of blend in and it'd be low maintenance. Like I said, that it just kind of just nestled into the property. And that's it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else online with us that would like to speak in favor? Anyone else? Okay, thank you so much. We'll now move to those who would like to speak against, and we do have a list of those who are registered, so I'll move through the list. Ed Spencer Muse, are you on with us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. Appreciate your time and your efforts. Initially want to start off with what was echoed this afternoon, that we support Stan Hewitt in the neighborhood. We value its contribution to the city and the community, and frankly, very happy to live around it. However, the access from Reynolds Avenue is simply not necessary. They have their own means of ingress and egress from Portage Path. The proposal or the project, and these are not numbers that I made up, the numbers are the math. It's 23,783 square feet in 3 different buildings. The volunteer building itself is 7,095 square feet. They provided 84 parking spaces. And again, these are not my numbers. From the information we've been able to gather in the last month or so, they estimate 55,000 hours from volunteers, over 500 volunteers. I understand they're not all going to be there on one day, and that's the nature of having volunteers do the work. They come and go as they please, so that fits their schedule. obviously they have tasks to do and they get the tasks done. But the history of this area, when it was first used for something besides a residence, Stan Hewitt obviously was a residence once upon a time and was zoned residential until 1988. 1983, when they first put their first oil and gas well back there, the ordinance specifically provided that all access to the well site be from North Portage Path. It also said that the access from Reynolds Avenue would be limited to emergency vehicles only. The council in 1983 understood the potential problems for the neighborhood if this was opened up for full-on development by Stan Hewitt. Now, of course, Stan Hewitt has their missions as a public museum and a community center, and they do it very well. It's not as if we understand they're not manufacturing back here. However, I can't reiterate enough that they have an access off North Portage Path. We have a situation where now they are trying to increase the access at Reynolds and Trentwood, and it is essentially a dead-end street. We are asking that council take time on this matter and specifically asking that the applicant provide a traffic engineering study to give us real data on what kind of traffic impact this will have on the neighborhood. I thank Mr. Joyce again for allowing myself, Mr. Malik and Mr. Fusco to walk the property and see the challenges that they face. They have indicated that they obtained a permit to clear trees a couple years ago. And yes, they cleared trees. They cleared a lot of trees. And they used Reynolds Avenue as the access for all the construction vehicles during that process. And now it is evidently too difficult to clear trees to provide access from Portage Path to this site, despite the fact that the 1983 ordinance is the only ordinance in place with respect to that. They are to use access to the well site only from North Portage Path. With respect to the proposed access and having a concrete electronic gate keypad, that area I just learned last Thursday or Friday is part of an undeveloped city street right of way. It's a public right of way there. The proposal as it stands proposes to put this keypad approximately 20 feet into the right of way. That has not been dealt with in the proposed ordinance yet. And again, we're asking council to take additional time to see what makes the most sense for not only the neighborhood, but for Stan Hewitt. That is all I have. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Katie Eubank?
Thank you, Madam President. Hold on, we have an echo. We're taking care of that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Madam President and Council. I appreciate your time and efforts on this subject. I live on Trentwood Avenue. I've lived in the neighborhood since 1994. I think Stan Hewitt is a gem to the community, and in my travels, people have asked where I'm from, and I've told them, and they said, "Oh, we've been to Stan Hewitt," and I think it helps our economy in the area. And like I said, it's a gem. Ed pretty much covered a lot of my thoughts with regards to the construction vehicles. I guess I'm kind of confused because with all this construction going on, I thought they were all going to be routed through Portage Path, but I'm hearing that the road can't support that. When they drilled the gas well about, I guess, 10 years ago, we had all the construction equipment coming in and out of our neighborhood. There was one incident where the semi couldn't make the turn, hit the power pole, and the live wires fell on his truck. So I think our neighborhood can accommodate the construction vehicles. When they took down the trees, like every single truck, whether it be a semi, the log haulers, the employees in their pickup trucks, in and out. Our neighborhood has changed over the years. It's a lot more children in the neighborhood riding their bikes. We also have one of the neighbors who's in her 90s that does her daily walk around the neighborhood. I believe it's a safety issue too. I would ask council to do their due diligence before moving forward with any of this. I think there's a lot of stuff that has not been addressed that would impact our neighborhood. I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Eva Manbeck?
Ms. Manbeck, I believe you're muted. Do you see somewhere that says to unmute? I can send you a prompt if you don't see it. Did something come up that asks you to unmute? There we go.
Thank you for unmuting me. I have very little to add to what Ed and Katie just said. First of all, let me tell you that I have lived on Reynolds Avenue. I purchased the home in 2005. I was caring for my parents when all the trucks were going up and down the road, the heavy equipment. So I was home and I was aware of what was going on. At one point, for several days, we had a huge diesel truck with a flatbed across from the road running its engine for at least an hour at a time. The smell of the diesel coming in, my parents were ill and it affected them. So we've had some situations for a while. I do appreciate that Stan Hewitt's a gorgeous place. I love to go up there. I love to walk around the grounds. But once again, our neighborhood is small. Reynolds here is just 3 blocks long. It cannot accommodate what you're asking for it to do. I would pray and hope that all the equipment and all the volunteers, all the traffic comes in off of Portage Path. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Cynthia Morris?
Doesn't look like she signed in.
Okay, click on the screen.
Ashley Taylor? Is Ashley Taylor online with us? If not, we will move on to Lori Davis.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. I have some questions actually for, for the Stan Hewitt people. First of all, I moved here 12 years ago from Cincinnati. This neighborhood is very conducive to what I liked. It's beautiful at Stan Hewitt, beautiful trees, beautiful land. I realize that some of that land is not quite as beautiful as it used to be behind Trentwood, but that is Stan Hewitt land to do with as they choose. My question, a couple things. First of all, on this gate that they're looking to put in, what are the hours that gate's going to be operational? People that live on the corners there have children, and that gate will be opening and closing all hours of the day, all hours of the night. I realize that some of the events that Stan Hewitt has run late, such as Christmas and that. So those volunteers may or may not be there. I'm not sure. I'd like some clarification on that. The other thing is how are these people that are going into the volunteer center getting up to the Hop Manor House? Is there a tram system or are they going up that road? Again, we're talking about potential noise issues with that. I don't know how they're doing it. That's why I'm asking this. Just a quick address about the trucks that came down the road. I did see them. And actually, we were standing on the corner when they came through. That area is chained. I'm curious as to how they were able to go through there when the area has a chain and a lock. That's, again, another question, may or may not be able to be answered. The 165 parking spots that are supposed to go in place of these buildings, Is that really going to cause a big issue with all the people that come through? It may or may not, but I would like clarification on that. Our road during some of the higher volume events can have up to 40 cars parked on it. Do you think that's going to change by 165 parking spots? Maybe, maybe not. Okay, basically, I want to put in your mind, how would you feel living at the end of Reynolds and those two houses that are on the corner, having people coming in and out at potential all times of the night? Again, one of those houses has small children. I just would like to put that in your head a little bit. I don't know. I don't think that the people there are in favor of it, but I can't say that for sure. So basically, that's what I have. I am not in favor of it. It is a very nice residential neighborhood filled with elderly to very young. And I believe that having any extra traffic going up and down Reynolds would really take some of the joy out of living here in a quiet neighborhood. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate everything Stan Hewitt does. It is a gorgeous place. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Davis. Jeff Lane?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you for your time, City Council. I would echo the sentiments of my neighbors of Ed Muse regarding Stan Hewitt. Fantastic place, great contributor to the community. Unfortunately, we're at a point where they're assuring us that these things won't change in the future of them opening up to different opportunities, parking, et cetera. But this is what they're doing now from the 1980s ordinance. So we're opening a can of worms. I think at this point needs to slow down and let's figure out all the details of this before we go forward with it. Yes, there are alternatives. Instead of using Reynolds, to use Portage Path, which is a main artery versus a residential street. There are young people, there are old people that do walk the neighborhood. We don't know the impact it'll make until it actually happens. I don't feel comfortable taking that risk. I think the slowdown of it and taking the time for council to work with Stan Hewitt to figure this out was the best path we can take. Yeah, safety is first and foremost, I think, in everybody's mind, especially in these days. I think Stan Hewitt growing is a fantastic thing, and I hope they continue to prosper, but not at the risk of anybody or anyone's children's family. So I would just question the ability to have an alternative to Reynolds at this time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Dr. Curtis Walker?
I do not see that he signed in for this evening's meeting.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, that will conclude our public hearing. Councilman Fusco?
Yes, thank you, President Somerville. I'd like to pull the committee to refer this item, meaning take time. Kamer?
Aye.
Naylor?
Sorry. Aye.
Samples?
Aye.
The report of the committee is to refer this item.
This item will be referred, time will be granted.
Notice is hereby given that the following public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, January 11th, 2021, during the council meeting at 7 p.m. Ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct a two-family dwelling at 764 Excelsior Avenue.
Mr. Antonucci?
Yes, thank you, Madam President, members of council. The Well Akron CDC doing business as Middlebury Housing LLC is requesting permission to construct a new two-family dwelling at this location. The existing lot area is 4,000 square feet and the street frontage has 40 feet. The proposed home is a 2.5 story with first floor and upper floor dwelling units. The first floor unit has 3 bedrooms and 1 bath. The upper unit has 4 bedrooms and 2 baths. The dwelling has a gable roof and full front porch. The dwelling will be clad in horizontal vinyl siding with PVC trim. The proposed design of the home is very compatible with the existing residential context. Numerous two-family and multi-family dwellings exist on similarly sized lots in this neighborhood without impact. The developer intends to build at least 6 more of these units in this neighborhood. The majority will be built on wider lots that will accommodate off-street parking spaces. Two-family dwelling type is a desirable for infill in our traditional neighborhoods. This housing type will provide a new, affordable rental housing option for families who do not want to live in a large apartment building, and it will give them the benefit of living in a home with direct access to a backyard. Office of Integrated Development, Planning Staff, and Planning Commission recommend approval with conditions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Antonucci. Is our petitioner online with us, Zach Cole?
I am here.
Great. Before you bring forth comments, just going to ask that you be sworn in by a member of our law department.
If you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to give is the truth? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Cole?
All right. So if you'd like, I'm assuming I can share my screen and I can share some pictures while I kind of process through some of this. So the first picture. So this is this rendering is a product of actually, I think a culmination of several years of work. So we've been working in the community now as the Well Community Development Corporation for 4.5 years. In 2018, we completed about a 12-month process where we worked with local neighbors, local businesses, anchor organizations, and the city of Akron, people from the planning department, to create a Middlebury neighborhood plan. And one of the 5 core strategic areas that came out of that neighborhood plan was investing in the housing stock. And so one of the things that the Well Community Development Corporation has been doing is working on rehabbing properties. And so we've begun in January of 2018, we launched a campaign to rehab 60 homes in 60 months. And we are 37 months into that process, and we recently acquired our 54th property. And we do believe that that 60 for 60 campaign will actually be done in 48 months. So we're seeing a lot of community buy-in and engagement through the process of rehabs, and we're seeing lots of good momentum in the rehab world. But we recognize that, especially in neighborhoods like the Roselawn Excelsior neighborhood, we have a lot of houses that have been torn down. So in a neighborhood where there are 111 parcels, only 11 of them are homeowners, and there's at least 33 vacant, like no structure, the structure's been torn down, vacant lots. And so one of the pieces that has been that has come across loud and clear to us is, what does it look like for us to rebuild our community in a way that is beneficial for our community? And so to honor the neighborhood plan, to honor feedback from our residents, we've designed a duplex that really honors the bones and historic presence of our community. And so as you look at the front of this structure, what you see is kind of a square, what looks like a square home with a first floor, second floor, and a possible finished attic, which with a 12-12 pitch roof, which is something that mirrors kind of the structure and design of the houses that were built in the 19-teens, 20s, and 30s in this community. So we were really intentional with the design about honoring the dynamics of the community that has been there. And you can see, so from the front of the house, it looks like all the other structures in the community. And then you can see where we've added size to create context for the duplex, and space on both the lower level and the upper level is really pushing out of the back. This lot is a 100-foot deep lot, and gives us this, which a lot of the lots in the community gives us a lot of space to be able to build back and add size and still create a duplex unit that is quality living for us, for a family. So you can see we've tried to be intentional. Also, as you look around the building, the stairwell to this structure is, or to the second floor structure, is on the interior of the house rather than a large wooden stairwell on the exterior of the house. trying to be intentional of like keeping that single family structure and keeping the presence of what has historically been in the community. I can also share the floor plans for the units. So looking here is really looking at kind of on the right side of the screen, I believe where my mouse is over, is the layout of the first apartment. So you'd come in the front door, you have a large living space and then an alley kitchen. And coming around back, we were intentional about keeping laundry unique to each unit. And then you have a full bathroom and three bedrooms. On the second floor, you have this, which is right here. You have the second floor layout, which is very similar. Again, living space, dining space, and then the alley kitchen. But here you have the bathroom, laundry, and then 2 bedrooms and a open stairwell to go up to the attic, which would allow us to have 2 additional bedrooms and additional full bathrooms. So we were really intentional from the onset of trying to create a dynamic in our community that makes sense for our community. Not only do we believe a duplex gives more borrowing ability in a community that is on the rebound. So not only does a potential home buyer have passive income coming in from the other side of the duplex that can help support a mortgage, also looking at additions like generational living, where you can have a younger family living on the 2nd and 3rd floor and maybe aging parents on the 1st floor. The 1st floor could potentially be handicap accessible. All kinds of benefits that we believe as we continue to kind of rebuild the fabric of the Middlebury neighborhood and all the houses that have been demolished or are currently boarded up in our community. As we look to rebuild the fabric of the Middlebury neighborhood, we're looking to do it in a way that honors that historic bones, but also gives current residents an opportunity to invest in their place, and then future residents to see themselves living here, not just for like a 5 to 10 year period, but for the duration of their whole life, that this is a place where they can age. And really all residents of Middlebury seeing Middlebury as a place where they can age and see themselves as part of this community. So I think I could probably go into more detail if I needed to, but that's kind of the project in a nutshell. Open to any questions people might have.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cole. At this time, Councilman Fusco.
Yes, I'd like to pull the committee for a favorable report with suspension of the rules.
Any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you. Baylor?
Aye.
Mosley Samples?
Aye.
Kamer?
Aye.
Report of the committee is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
The rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you, President Somerville. This is Zach Cole, and the Well has been doing this great work for many, many years here, as he has mentioned. I know that possibly Representative Mosley Samples may have some comments she had this afternoon. She may have some this evening as well. I'd like to turn it over to her if she has any comments as well.
Just briefly, just want to talk about briefly the work that Zach Cole and the Well CDC and along with Curtis Mentor Jr. have done in the Middlebury footprint, which encompasses Ward 5 and Ward 10 collectively. They have been doing a great job bringing the community together and having the community in mind as they built this project, and let the community be really intentional and involved about everything that they did. And I want to commend him for that. Sharon and I are very proud to have you as part of our ward, and we look forward to watching you build Middlebury Manor in the way that you've been doing it. 60 for 60, ambitious, but you meant it and you did it, and we appreciate you for that.
Yes, and Ms. Connor may have some comments as well.
I will certainly echo my fellow councilwoman's comments. The Well has been great to watch over the past few years. As she said, not only have they put forth a task and created these what looked like lofty goals and then have met them every time. They have met them well-intentioned with the neighborhood, always forefront, seeking neighborhood input from not only the neighbors, but the schools and the businesses, and always in keeping in mind it's their neighborhood not a neighborhood of people from outside to come in. They are really building from the inside out. And it's been so impressive to watch. We congratulate you on your good work.
Am I allowed to comment and just say thank you? I very much appreciate it. Appreciate the kind words. Appreciate the time tonight. Thanks.
Jack, you're so welcome. Thanks for all that you do to make Akron so much better. I do see Councilwoman Amobian also has her hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. I certainly want to re-echo what I said this afternoon, that I forget how long it's been now, Zach, that you had the unveiling of your strategic plan where you had a lot of community partners. And you talked about wanting to stabilize that neighborhood. And it really appears that you and Mr. Mentor and your other staff members have done that. It's just nice to know that you're trying to help those transient families stabilize and become homeowners, hopefully eventually. But this looks like great work and we congratulate you. Thank you. And for you guys to be so young, it's so nice. Thank you.
Thank you. The committee's report is favorable. The rules have been suspended. Roll call.
Baylor,
Aye.
Connor,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
Fusco,
Aye.
Kamer,
Aye.
Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick,
Aye.
Malik,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Amobian,
Aye.
Samples,
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-0. Notice is hereby given that the following public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, January 11th, 2021, during the council meeting at 7 p.m. Ordinance authorizing a second amendment to the 2019 Consolidated Action Plan.
Is this going to be Helen Tomic?
I will defer to Dylan Garitano.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The City of Akron's 2019 Annual Consolidated Action Plan prioritizes federal development of housing and urban developments spending, including community development block grant funding, home investment partnership grant funding, and emergency shelter grant funding. The goals of this program are to assist primarily low and moderate income persons to improve existing housing, develop affordable housing, and expand economic opportunity and to aid the homeless. The CARES Act of 2020 designated additional funding to be set aside for the purpose of assisting communities to address community development and homeless needs related to the impact of the COVID-19 outbreak. The City of Akron will receive an additional $995,077 in CDBG funds and $1,828,930 in ESGP funds for this purpose. The 2019 amendment recommends the following key initiatives. The ESGP funds will be used to provide homeless prevention and rapid rehousing rental assistance to assist individuals and families at risk of homelessness. And the CDBG funds will be used for the creation of a revolving loan fund for existing and startup businesses in the City of Akron impacted by COVID-19. The Long Range Planning Department recommends approval.
Thank you so much. We did not have anyone sign up to speak in favor or against. So at this time, Councilman Fusco.
Yes, I'd like to pull the committee to place this item on the consent agenda, which would give council an opportunity to ask questions should they have any. We have till the end of the month for this application. So with that, I'm going to ask for consent agenda. Mosley Samples.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Naylor.
Aye.
Request the committees for consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Yeah, the request the committees for time on 4 through and including 14.
Time will be granted.
Thank you. 15, we're going to ask that we file 15. That's the petition for the Excelsior property we just zoned to 2 unit. So file 14. I'm sorry, 15. And then time on the balance.
Time will be granted.
Thank you.
That concludes our old business. We'll move into new business rules.
Offered by Mayor Horrigan. Resolution congratulating Adele Dorfner-Roth on the occasion of her retirement and her many career achievements, thanking her for her dedicated service to the City of Akron and wishing her well in all of her future endeavors, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman?
Yes, the committee met today. Our report is favorable and I believe we have, I cannot see here, I believe we have our honoree with us this evening. Would like to give her a few moments to say a few words, and then also would welcome any comments from council or the administration.
Thank you, Chairman. So I just want to very briefly say thank you very much for the opportunity to work for the citizens of Akron. Somebody asked me today if I was planning to move somewhere, and I just want to say, no, this is my home and I love Akron and I plan to be here, and you guys all just need to keep doing your job real, real well. So I like living here. And I want to really say that I love my colleagues. The people I've worked with over the years have been great. Council is always working hard to try to pass the laws that, you know, get us going in the right direction. And I'm going to miss all of you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Adele. Anyone else that might have a comment?
Councilman Fusco?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, just as mentioned earlier, that I know a lot of us, and Adele, you know, she explains things to us, and some of us, it takes quite a bit of time and many, many reiterations of the same thing in order for us to get it, because Adele's so smart. And also, I know she's going to be staying here, and her commitment to community, I know we're all going to be seeing more of her in her retirement time, and we'll be anxious to hear from you from time to time as well, Adele. And thank you for your service to our community. Thank you so much. We're better off having had you serve our community. Thank you.
Neil?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Adele, I just want to say I've always admired your work. Thanks to you, we have a beautiful Highland Square that even those of us who don't live in that area can enjoy. And at a time when the city is thankfully investing in, residential neighborhoods, we need that intellectual capital so we could do some more of that creative investment. So hopefully I heard the mayor say that he's going to keep your number on speed dial. So hopefully you're available so that we can, create more creative investments in our local neighborhoods. But I just, you've always been willing to explain and share and give insight. And I just appreciate you. So thanks for everything you've done for our city.
Thank you. I see Councilwoman Amobian.
Adele, I just want to thank you for explaining and re-explaining all of the different ins and outs of TIF and everything else. I probably still don't fully understand all of it, but again, it sounds like we might still be able to call on you. But I appreciate the service, and I'm learning a lot about you that I didn't know from reading this resolution. I didn't realize that you were born in a foreign country, but anyway, thank you so much for your service to the citizens of Akron. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to bring forth comments? I see Councilwoman Samples.
I just wanted to make a motion for mayor and council as a whole. And Adele, I will miss you, but I'm sure once the world opens back up, I will see you.
Wonderful. We do have a motion on the floor. I do see Councilwoman Baylor.
I just want to say, Adele, you have always been a very beautiful spirit. Each time that I have encountered you in conversation, whether it was serious or just frivolous, it's always been a pleasure. And it looked just like that Councilman Neal said, you are just so smart, and you know the city, you know so many things. I've learned a lot from you, and I'm just glad you're able to take some time to do some things that you will enjoy even in a different light. I know you enjoy working for the city and everything because your light and your spirit has just embodied us in this city. So thank you for what you have contributed in that way.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to bring forth comments?
Madam President, I think we need to stop before Adele's stock goes up much higher.
I agree. I just have to get in my comments before we entertain our motion. So I'm just going to lay it on a little bit more thick, I think. But she is well deserving of it. I just want to say, Adele, thank you so much for your service. You have always been my to-go person. And I apologize, out in the community, talking with people wanting to do things and make moves. I said, you got to talk to Adele. And so I just want to thank you for just taking that time to talk to residents and talk to business owners and, you know, being creative and thinking out of the box. That's what we need. And so I'm going to miss you so much, but I am so excited for your next future. Well deserved, and enjoy. So we do have a motion for mayor and council as a whole. Can we get a second by Councilwoman Samples?
Second.
Roll call.
Baylor,
Aye.
Connor,
Aye.
Freeman,
Goodobane. Aye.
Fusco,
Aye.
Kamer,
Aye.
Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick,
Aye.
Malik,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Amobian,
Aye.
Samples,
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This resolution passes 12-0. Item number 2, offered by Fusco, resolution adopting the 2021 Capital Investment and Community Development Program, legally referred to as the Capital Investment Budget, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Yes, President Somerville, refer and advertise for public hearing to be held January 25th.
This item will be referred.
Item number 3, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into an oil and/or gas lease agreement with DP Energy Auburn LLC for the mineral rights of approximately 475 acres of city-owned land at the watershed for gas and oil extraction and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Consent agenda. And if there's anyone has any questions or what have you, please forward those to Mr. Luddle and carbon copy me. Thank you.
Thank you. This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 4, offered by Samples, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee, after publicly advertising for bids, to enter into a contract or contracts for construction of the sanitary sewer reconstruction 2019 large diameter lining project and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Samples?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The committee's report is consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 5, offered by Samples, ordinance authorizing the mayor to apply for a water pollution control loan fund bond and to sign all documents for and enter into WPCLF agreements with the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, and the Ohio Water Development Authority, OWDA, for the construction of the sanitary sewer reconstruction 2019 large diameter lining project and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Samples?
Thank you, Madam President. Consent agenda, please.
This item will also be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 6, offered by Freeman, ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to apply for the 2021 Ohio Water Development Authority Research and Development Grant, impact of 3 powdered activated carbon varieties and pH in the removal of microcrystin and saxocrystin from drinking water when both are present in source water, to accept the grant if awarded, to execute necessary documents and agreements, to expend grant funds, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman?
Committee's requested this item be placed on the consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 7, offered by Councilwoman Amobian, resolution expressing displeasure to the enactment of the Stand Your Ground legislation as signed by Governor DeWine January 4th, 2021, which makes Ohioans, including law enforcement officers, less safe by dramatically encouraging armed vigilantism in our communities and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer?
Thank you, Madam President. Committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules, please.
Any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll yield to the sponsor if she has any additional comments. That's Councilwoman Amobian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I indicated this afternoon, and you couldn't hear all my comments because of the static in my phone, but there's nothing positive about stand your ground. There have been many states that have adopted this, but it's the kind of law where you shoot first and then you question or think about it later. When I first heard about it, it was in 2012 when Trayvon Martin was killed by a vigilante. And we have since witnessed numerous killings of brown and Black individuals without them being in any kind of trouble or doing anything wrong, just happen to be in a neighborhood minding their business or walking or running or whatever the case may be. And there have been numerous cases. I mean, it's so hard to believe that on one hand, we focus on infant mortality and we declare racism a public health crisis, and then we turn around and sign a bill like this into law. It is extremely disappointing, and it has no place in Ohio or any other city because it has done nothing but created more harm and tragedy for Black and brown folks and for police officers. So it's totally unnecessary, and I really didn't think the governor would sign this into law. So thank you very much.
Councilman Kamer, do you have anything else?
No, I don't, Madam President.
Okay, thank you. The committee's report is favorable. The rules have been suspended. Roll call.
Baylor,
Aye.
Connor,
Aye.
Freeman,
Nay.
Fusco,
Aye.
Kamer,
Aye.
Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick,
Aye.
Malik,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Amobian,
Aye.
Samples,
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This resolution passes 11-1. Item number 8, offered by Councilwoman Samples, resolution condemning the actions of those who stormed the U.S. Capitol building on January 6, 2021, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee's report is favorable on this item too, and we're asking for passage.
Any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll go ahead and yield to the sponsor, Councilwoman Samples, if she has any additional comments.
Thank you, Councilman Kamer. As we all witnessed on January 6th, we watched our U.S. Capitol be stormed by insurrectionists, or we call them domestic terrorists. It's a day in history that we all will never forget, and one that should have never happened. Actions and words have consequences, and because of the words of President, he incited violence on the Capitol against not only the sitting Congress, but against his own vice president. These individuals took his words to heart, and they actually put up a noose looking for the vice president to hang him, looking for the Speaker of the House to cause her harm, showing individuals who had zip ties to kidnap elected officials and their staff. Police officers who, one lost his life at the scene trying to keep them from invading on the Capitol, and one who took his life. This is what has become of the last 4 years. In an instant, we watched our country unfold into something that we had never experienced, never seen, and never thought of for our country. It's very painful to watch the videos and to watch individuals who really believed the words of our sitting president and felt they needed to take action. And again, like I said, actions and words have consequences. And I hope that you all support this. I hope that we never have to experience anything like this in this country. Again, we have a lot to talk about with our children, our grandchildren, because of this act on January the 6th. And hopefully our country can heal from it. Hopefully we will become a better America because of it. And I do hope that this council will support this.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman Samples. I do see Councilman Fusco.
Thank you, President Somerville. Just briefly, just that after the insurgents, if you will, occurred, I was very proud of our Congress and our Senate. They stayed the course and they certified the election, which is what drove those individuals to the Capitol to try to stop that. But they stayed the course and they did what they were elected to do. I was very proud of that, and I hope we all are. The other side of it is just as Ms. Mosley Samples had eloquently explained, you know, actions and what words they mean a lot. And I would just like to ask anyone who's listening or what have you, that if you see something or you know something, say something, because those individuals are being held accountable for their actions as they should be. And so with that, I too rise in favor of this particular resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Fusco. Councilman Kamer?
I have nothing else to add. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. The committee's report is favorable. The rules have been suspended. Roll call.
Baylor,
Aye.
Connor,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
Fusco,
Aye.
Kamer,
Aye.
Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick,
Aye.
Malik,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Amobian,
Aye.
Samples,
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This resolution passes 12-0.
This concludes our new business. We will now go to the portion of our meeting that we refer to as our public comment period. Our clerk will read in comments received. We do have voicemails for this evening as well.
From Emily O'Brien. I just read in the Akron Beacon Journal that 60% of Summit County EMS personnel are refusing to take the COVID-19 vaccine. This is inexcusable, disgraceful, and embarrassing. The misinformation campaigns and conspiracy theorists that profess that the vaccine is not safe, despite all scientific evidence to the contrary, are obviously taking a strong hold in our community. If our community does not reach effective immunity levels soon, more lives will be lost. The longer it takes for our community to be vaccinated, the longer this pandemic will continue and our businesses and economy will suffer. The EMS personnel who refuse this vaccine are behaving in a selfish and illogical manner that puts our community at risk by prolonging this pandemic. Please take a stand, conduct an education campaign against vaccine misinformation. Encourage critical thinking skills that help people assess the information they receive. Our society is suffering from an epidemic of conspiracy theories and misinformation that is affecting everyone on multiple levels. Personally reach out to the EMS personnel and ask them to do the right thing for their community. Please take immediate action in this time of crisis. This is from Jack Jones. He says, I oppose any park development. This letter came from Pastor Harrison. It's a request for moratorium on water disconnections. We, the below listed pastors, are disappointed that we took the time to reach out to Mayor Horgan asking for a meeting concerning the disconnection of water service during this pandemic. However, Mayor Horgan nor his staff responded to our concerns. We now submit this letter and look forward to speaking with members of council. Collectively, sent via email Monday, December 21st, 2020. Collectively, we are respecting that the City of Akron immediately cease all water disconnections. We also request a Zoom meeting and to discuss how we can assist in resolving the current water crisis. It is unconscionable and alarming to disconnect water service for more than 2,300 residents. The 2,300 families represent Akron's most vulnerable population. Turning off water service puts the families who have been deprived of water at a greater risk to contract the COVID-19 virus, but it also puts the general public at a greater risk of contracting the COVID-19 virus. Summit County has extended their countywide stay-at-home order through January 31st, 2021. Therefore, we are asking for this humanitarian moratorium on water shutoffs through March 31st, 2021. It is contradictory to ask families to stay at home, limit their contact with people who do not live in their home, and encourage people to wash their hands frequently and then disconnect their water service. The city of Akron has over $450,000 in a fund designated for water assistance. Why not figure out a more efficient way of dispensing these funds? Again, disconnecting residential water service during a pandemic puts the entire community at a greater risk of contracting the COVID-19 virus. Sincerely, Reverend John Beatty, Elder Larry Chadwick, Reverend Jeffrey Dennett, Reverend Gregory Partridge, Reverend Gregory Harrison, Reverend Stacy Jenkins, Bishop Emmett Lee, Minister Stephen Muhammad, Reverend Ed Peterson, Reverend Heather Wicks, and Reverend Kurt Weiser. Then I do have some voicemails as well.
My name is Jody Grassgreen, 699 Weber Avenue, Akron 44303. I'm reading comments from signers of a petition on the Preserve the Valley website, and these are all Akron residents. Corey Sheldon, the valley is Akron's greatest resource and separates it from most cities that do not have such access to a wonderful natural region. Akron is not busting at the seams with population. You can fill residential space that is underutilized while preserving the shrinking natural gem of this community. Heather Hillenbrand. Akron has plenty of unused urban space that could be redeveloped instead of creating ecological destruction that will give citizens less access to green space. Maureen Ferris. I love and value the green space in the city. Please consider preserving this natural resource. Mary Auerbach. Don't forget this is our recreation area. Dense housing invites traffic and commercial development. This should be a no. Melanie Vieira. We've destroyed too many natural lands for high-priced homes the majority of residents can't afford. Chad Ledley. We don't need more large upscale homes. We need more trees. Nathan Llewellyn. City sprawl is taking over. Humans and animals alike will suffer from the loss of nature. Cynthia Ott. Overdevelopment without regard for green space benefits no one. Emily Criddell. I grew up here, and the natural areas around Akron shaped who I am. All kids should have the chance to be outside in a healthy, thriving ecosystem. A healthy ecosystem provides priceless assets to the community, cleaner water and air, decreases flooding, provides habitats to animals that benefit us, such as birds that help control pest insect populations. There is real monetary value in a natural space like this that is longer lasting investment than benefits a whole community instead of a short-term investment in McMansions that benefits a few. I'd like to consider moving back to Akron one day, and the healthy natural spaces is the main draw. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
I'm Bill Nesbitt, B-I-L-L, and Nesbitt, N-E-S-B-I-T-T, to 330-379-2235, 1155 Diagonal Road, Akron, Ohio. Again, in regards to the Akron Bureau of Public Utilities reestablishing itself on High Street and remaining there, particularly due to the increase of the virus. We do not do things that will add to the travel, the additional people contact and stress of any of our citizens, particularly those who would have a chance to walk to our High Street area and to be traveling by bus. Do not take away the walking option or add to the people contact in time with the bus travel and the stress. And particularly in view of our hospitals nationwide, teetering toward overloading in general areas in general. Of course, some parts they are overloaded. We are challenged here, of course, in our Akron area Daniel, Jeff Fusco, and Mike Friedman on this by letter by Wednesday by 4 p.m. Thank you for your attention, for your aid for our Akron citizens. All have a great 2021 continual Christmas and New Year's season time.
My name is Tom Lavery, and this regards property at 575 North Portage Path. I wanted to let people know and complain about a deliberate undermining and trashing of that property. On December 16th, Wednesday, there were two cars. The garage was broken into, and there were two cars, collector vehicles, stolen out of that. It's been difficult, if ever, to try to get them back. One was a 1986 Dodge minivan, one of the first ones they ever made, and another one was a 79 Oldsmobile. Both of these cars have been garaged for 25 years. They were stolen out of that garage that day. 5 days later, in the afternoon, after I had gone, the house was broken into, and somebody from the city, several people or whatever, came in and totally trashed the place, threw everything all over the place, left all the doors except the front one open that they couldn't get out of, trashed the Christmas tree, and threw all kinds of my kids' stuff all over the place. They did their best to totally and maliciously trash that house. It's been in a couple of court cases for several years through a total fraud operation going back to October about 3 years ago. I want somebody to be able to straighten something out about that. Thank you. Good evening, City Council. My name is Harrington Hargrove, and I'm just touching bases back with the council in reference to the Elevate Akron study. And I'm quite sure, most of you are aware that the Elevate Akron study said that the Black population in Akron is excluded from economic opportunity. And also in that article, James Hardy, Mayor's Horrigan Chief of Staff, said this is more than just a moral imperative. This report was in 2018 of October, but as of yet, there's no plan been introduced to the community to elevate the Black community. And in reference to that study, on February the 22nd, 2001, I was invited to speak at the Capitol in Columbus, Ohio, and I spoke out about how the Black man and woman is denied opportunity to have a say in developing our own communities. It's been 20 years plus that I've been asking the city of Akron to allocate funding and inclusion of the Black communities for upward mobility. And I would like for City Council to address that within themselves and let them know that this is an emergency for the Black man and woman in Akron, Ohio. We need opportunity. I respectfully leave you this message, Council, and I really, really would appreciate if the whole council at large realize the significance of what I'm saying. Thank you very much. May God bless you and keep you. Thank you. Bye.
And that's the end of the voicemails for today.
Okay, thank you so much. We will move into our committee assignments. And of course, we will not be meeting on next Monday as we celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King Day. So this will be for Monday, January 25th, Rules, Councilman Freeman.
245.
Public Safety, Councilman Kamer.
215, please.
Budget and Finance, Councilman Freeman.
3 p.m.
Parks and Rec, Councilman Neal.
145.
Planning and Economic Development, Councilman Fusco.
1 o'clock,
Housing and Neighborhood Assistance, Councilman Fusco.
subject to a call.
Public Service, Councilwoman Samples.
2 p.m.
Health and Social Services, Councilwoman Amobian.
2:30.
Public Utilities and Green Committee, Councilman Freeman.
245.
We are also going to call the Special Committee for Reimagining Public Safety to meet on Monday, January 25th at 12:30 as well. Also, just a reminder to all of council members, we will begin our capital budget review starting Monday, January 25th at 4:00 p.m. And then our second session will be February 1st at 4:00 p.m. via Zoom. Is there anything else coming before council at this time?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. If there are no objections, meeting adjourned.
This concludes the live broadcast of Akron City Council. Margot Somerville, President of Council, presiding.